You're watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Still to come on our program. Telecom manufacturers Huawei in the crossfire of the U.S.-China trade war. Huawei's chief security officer from the United States explains to me in an exclusive interview how they are coping right now.
We think in terms of the global community, benefiting customers, benefiting suppliers, it's better if we maintain these important partnerships going forward.
Welcome back. You're still watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. The program is coming to you on CGTN from Beijing. Next, we turn to the latest on the fallout from the U.S. ban on Chinese telecom giant Huawei. Washington has put Chinese company Huawei on a trade blacklist, leaving many to question if it's intended to stifle China's high-tech competition. As a pioneer in 5G networks, Huawei's market is getting bigger. It signs 31 deals with telecom operators worldwide and shipped more than 10,000 base stations to overseas markets. But its rising profile also makes it a high-value target in the U.S.-China trade war. Last week, President Donald Trump said that there was a good possibility, in his words, Washington would reach an agreement with Beijing, and that it's possible that Huawei could be included in a trade deal. Of course, later he said something very different as well. So which is it, bargaining chip or national security threat? Huawei to the United States. How does Huawei plan to deal with the crisis? Earlier, I had an exclusive interview with the company's chief security officer, Andy Purdy. He's former U.S. senior cybersecurity official and now oversees Huawei American cybersecurity assurance strategy and system and supports Huawei's global security assurance program. Let's listen in. Mr. Purdy, help us to understand what exactly is your job. How should we understand the nature of your job?
Well, as Chief Cybersecurity and Privacy Officer, I'm responsible to manage individuals who comprise our Cybersecurity and Privacy Committee in the United States. Just like we have a global committee, we have a committee of representatives of the key business groups of the particular departments. So we make sure we manage and update the requirements for cybersecurity and privacy and make sure that the individuals within those business groups and departments understand what their responsibilities are. We have annual testing of those responsibilities. We do self-checks every 6 months. So we make sure that we are addressing real cybersecurity and privacy risks.
Okay. What do you make of the latest development, both the executive order issued by the United States White House and also the Commerce Department's so-called entity list? What does it mean for Huawei?
Well, this has been part of an ongoing effort of nearly 18 months where the United States has started putting pressure on Huawei, beginning with pressure on our mobile carriers not to carry Huawei phones. This is part of the larger geopolitical dynamic going on now between China and the U.S. You see it most visibly in terms of the trade talks, but there's a great global competition. In addition, the United States does not feel secure in cyberspace, and so Huawei is kind of in the middle between a number of these different sources, and some of these geopolitical dynamics mean that the kinds of individuals in government who would normally talk with us are not really open to talking with us to help address real cybersecurity issues.
Several days ago, when you were doing an interview, I quote here, "We hope that we will be given the opportunity to talk to the U.S. government about what kind of risk mitigation measures that can be put in place that will make America safer and allow us to do business and maintain the jobs of our customers." That's a quote coming from you several days earlier. Now, did you have that opportunity now to talk to relevant department of the U.S. government, particularly after the executive order and the entity list?
Well, we are pursuing those conversations. We're aware of some of the comments by the Treasury Secretary and the Commerce Secretary that they may be able to find a way to allow our Tier 3 rural customers to be allowed to retain Huawei products. and the comments by the Commerce Secretary that they would be open to having discussions with us about effective risk mitigation measures. So we are pursuing those conversations to find the right people within government to have the right conversations with.
Usually, what kind of people you are pursuing now? Are they willing to talk to you?
Well, we don't know for sure yet. We are optimistic that they will be willing to discuss these very important issues. We recognize that some of our customers who rely on Huawei products and services, and some of our suppliers who are affected by the executive order in one case and the entity list in the other, have a very strong interest in working out the situation with the U.S. government so that Huawei can continue to do business and that Huawei can continue to support our customers and to continue to spend the approximately $11 billion per year we spend to buy components, high-end components from U.S. companies. These are interests that matter, so we hope the U.S. government will be willing to talk with us. We expect that they'll be talking with our customers and our suppliers as well, and we think this is a good thing.
The Commerce Department has about 150 days to figure out what's being said specifically in the executive order, particularly regarding so-called foreign adversaries. What does this time period mean for Huawei and your customers and your suppliers?
These are complex, difficult issues that you can't wave a magic wand and have them resolved overnight. So this 150 days gives us time to explore these conversations, to explore what the real cybersecurity risks are, and what kinds of measures that can be put in place to provide assurance and transparency.
So what about the conversations taking place between Huawei and your suppliers from the United States? In what nature are these conversations taking place? There are reports suggesting that some of your suppliers are already refusing to talking to Huawei. Is that true?
Well, our account executives that have the relationships with the particular suppliers have been having conversations with them, and we understand that at least some of them are having conversations with the U.S. government, which is what we expect. The delay of 90 days on the banned entity list, which means that our suppliers can continue to sell us during that period, we expect that that is going to allow the continued flow of necessary components from our suppliers so that we can continue to use those products to the benefit of our end customers and to the benefit of our suppliers as well.
What about the Google? What about the Qualcomm? What about Intel? What about Microsoft? What about Broadcom? These are very important suppliers for Huawei over the years. What's the nature of the conversation with these companies, particularly regarding software and semiconductor?
Well, again, our account executives are having these discussions. Our company leadership wants to continue to purchase these important components from American companies. We would rather not have to go to suppliers in other places. We believe it's important to support our suppliers and important to meet the needs of our customers, so that even though in certain situations we may not make a particular great amount of money in selling to certain customers, and we may not absolutely need the supplies from particular suppliers, we think in terms of the global community, benefiting customers, benefiting suppliers, it's better if we maintain these important partnerships going forward. So we hope we're going to be able to maintain those for the benefit of everyone.
And yet there are reports coming out suggesting, for example, those are using Huawei smartphones will have difficulties downloading YouTube and many other apps as a result of Google currently interrupting its cooperation with Huawei as we speak. So what would that mean for your customers and those users of Huawei smartphones, as well as specific hardwares of Huawei?
Well, our customers have assurance that the various security updates that normally flow from the Android operating system from Google will continue to be maintained for the benefit of our customers. For the new devices, the next generation of devices that come out later this year, our users will have to, if it's not resolved, and we hope to be able to resolve it with the United States government and with Google, that they will have to then go to an app store to download the app so that they can take advantage of the Google apps that are currently preloaded on Huawei devices. So in the end, we believe that the services that are necessary for our phones, our mobile devices to serve our customers, those will be maintained and the quality will be maintained. You know, we have no question about that.
So how much danger do you think is there that the worst case scenario, as you mentioned earlier, likely to happen?
The worst case scenario is not really very bad for Huawei. The worst case scenario may be more harmful for the global community that may lose out on the potential innovation that we can contribute, and particularly the competition that's so necessary to the world, not just in terms of price, which people talk about, but in terms of innovation. That you need the competition for innovation, and you need diversity of suppliers for the major communication networks of the world to help promote not just risk management, but help promote resilience to make sure these networks can keep operating in a 5G world.
Tian Wei, the founder of Huawei, earlier in an exclusive interview with Chinese media, talking about Huawei be able to lead for at least 2 to 3 years 5G development. But many wonder, with the latest executive order and also the entity list, what does it mean for Huawei to provide these services?
Well, the global community has done a tremendous job in developing the standards necessary for 5G, with the evolution from 4G to 5G, to make sure there's not only maintenance of security, but there are enhanced security features for 5G. We hope, though, that the global community emphasis on almost a globalization of R&D and innovation, that all the countries of the world can benefit from the various innovations that take place around the world. We hope there won't be any kind of a balkanization that will require different parts of the world to create R&D on their own separate track. So we hope that kind of globalization of R&D, that globalization of innovation.
Here are some I have quoted coming from various reports talking about 5G things. IEEE, IETF, ISO, ETSI, 3GPP, TIA, GSMA, ITU. All of these are standards being used in different parts of the world. Are they also the standards that Huawei 5G system is looking at? We
are part of the cyberspace community in telecommunications that is working together to develop a framework of standards. 3GPP is perhaps the most prominent, a coalition of 7 standards bodies. And so you take, for example, the recent comments by the chief executive of Ericsson, who said this ecosystem has created a set of standards that's going to appropriately manage the risk from 5G that's going to benefit everyone. What
can Huawei do to dismiss or to lessen the concerns coming from Washington?
President Reagan, back in the day of the Cold War with the Soviet Union, talked about a trust but verify approach for nuclear weapons. The fact is that the global community needs trust through verification. Everybody's products and services need to be independently verified, pursuant to international standards. That's how you address national security risk. That's how you address real risk. And we have participated in that effort, and we continue to call for the global community to continue making progress toward unified standards that you can assess all products and services on.
There were 2 meetings taking place in reference to that. One was in Prague. Of course, that was quite a controversial meeting. Whether Huawei has much role in discussing is a big question mark. Secondly, of course, it's just taking place. OECD countries try to come up with some kind of standards regarding artificial intelligence. Those are only some of the very recent cases that we could have our eyes on. Mr. Purdy, how far are we really coming from the potential wonderful situation you just described, a so-called unified standard?
You can't just assume that when a product comes from a country that hosts a particular company, you can't assume that a company is bad or the product is bad. You can't assume that a company or product is good. The threats in cyberspace are so real. We have to have effective and transparent mechanisms to assess and reduce the risk. We believe the global community coming out of the Prague proposals, we believe the work that Germany is doing, and we expect the European Union to do some as well, that hopefully they're going to come up with some measures that are objective and transparent so we have a basis for knowing which products and services are worthy of trust.
I see. Now, Mr. Purdy, you're an American citizen, right?
Yes.
You used to work for the Department of Homeland Security and also work as a former prosecutor. What is it like for you now to work for Huawei in Washington under the current political climate? Is Huawei still going to be a company attractive to you and your American co-workers that are now on the staff?
One of the things that I found has been such a great experience with Huawei, I was recruited by our global head of cybersecurity and privacy nearly 7 years ago with a vision of the transformation of a great company from a cybersecurity and privacy perspective. A transformation to be an advocate for a safer cyberspace. So I've had the opportunity traveling to 23 countries on behalf of Huawei. And discussions with governments and private companies around the world and within the United States to be an advocate for making America safer in cyberspace. So no one has told me anything to say that I don't agree with. I get to say what I want to say. I get to tell the truth about real cybersecurity risk. And the fact is, the United States and the other countries of the world need to raise the bar. We need to take these measures to develop and use uniform cybersecurity standards. Use these mechanisms to assess risk objectively and based on evidence so that we can have conformance programs so we can prove which products are worthy of trust. That's how we address the risk. That's how we are all safer in cyberspace.
What's going on with Huawei in America? I understand more than 50 factories have been moved to the other countries. So what is the mission of Huawei America now?
We have 1,500 employees in the United States. We have our carrier, enterprise, and mobile device business here. In the long term, we would like to be able to participate actively in business in the United States. We believe that at some point, hopefully sooner than that, when the United States has programs in place to really address real cybersecurity risk, the kinds of requirements that are necessary, the kinds of proof programs, we'll be able to participate. We hope we'll be able to participate sooner, and particularly we want to help maintain our 40 or so rural wireless providers, the Tier 3 providers, who serve rural America. They have been loyal to us. We want to be loyal to them. We provide equipment and service that they can't get from anybody else, serving farmers and small business and schools and drugstores and the communities of rural America. We want to be able to maintain that service, and we know we can do it in a way where the risk is addressed. We know that Nokia and Ericsson, with heavy presences in China, they operate under risk mitigation agreements overseen by the U.S. government. We want to talk with the U.S. government about such proven risk mitigation mechanisms so the United States can benefit from Huawei innovation and technology and us being a competitor to help keep down prices.
And my last question, Mr. Purdy, Ren Zhengfei in a recent interview talked about that he would even provide his relatives a gift such as Apple phone when they are traveling to the United States. And Mr. Purdy, I wonder what kind of phone are you using?
P30 Pro, the best phone in the world. It's a Huawei phone. I encourage everyone to consider it, and you can buy it online and serviced by some of the major providers.
Advertising time. Thank you so much, Mr. Purdy, the Chief Security Officer of Huawei America. Really appreciate it. All the best, sir. I mean it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That's Andy Purdy, the Chief Security Officer of Huawei America, in an exclusive interview with us.